Married at First Sight UK, Episode 18. So we've come to our final dinner party of the series with our 5 remaining couples. We hope for a good night, but as we all know, none of these dinner parties ever run smooth. In this episode, I'm just going to touch on the highlights of the night, whilst also touching on each couple. And I will also give you my prediction on how long I feel each couple will last outside of this experiment. Of course, the night started off well. It always does. Amy gave a speech. She was the first one to give a speech tonight. Yeah, Frankie gave a speech, and also Adam at the end of the night. Matt, I have never heard speak so much at the dinner parties, but tonight was his night. He was on one in relation to Morag. There was a question asked from the honesty box that Morag had to answer. And if I do recall, the question said, why wasn't the old Luke good enough for you? Yep, that was it. Why wasn't the old Luke good enough for you? That felt like a long-winded answer. She must have took about good 10-15 minutes answering that question, because she kept finding excuses, going around the houses, the whole 9 yards. Matt was getting frustrated, wanting her to get to the point, willing for her to answer the question. It was at that point that he started throwing questions at her. Every time she spoke, he'd have a question right behind it. Every time she spoke again, he had a question right behind it. But what struggle? What pain? How does that make you feel now? Da-da-da-da-da. And he kept going. And he kept going. He wasn't happy. No. The old Luke was fine as far as he was concerned. That's what he was trying to say. There was nothing wrong with the old Luke. She's trying to mould him into this new person, this man that she's looking for. But he'll never meet that checklist, even though she said her checklist was a load of BS. I don't know why I even had a checklist. She's lying now. We know she's lying. Because that checklist is still there. Even in the reception hall before the dinner itself, she made a comment about the homestay and about how they had fallen out. And she turned around and said something like, I like it when he's angry. I find him very sexy when he's angry. And I thought to myself, hang on a minute. She's still looking for Mr. Rugby, Mr. 6'5", Mr. Muscles. All that stroppiness and the making up sex is more what she's about. That isn't Luke's character, generally. So if she thinks she's going to keep doing that, trying to wind him up to get the line out of him, she's sadly mistaken. And her constantly coming with these inconsiderate remarks about how she likes her men. She likes them to weigh half a ton. And that's how I like my men. She likes it when they're angry, because they're sexy when they're angry. All that nonsense. I'm starting to believe her alpha friend, Miss Loudmouth, is very correct about her. She thrives on that. All that shite. If she's trying to look for that in Luke, she is sadly mistaken. That is not Luke. Stop it. I'm 100% with Matt on this one. 100%. Whilst the back and forth were happening between Morag and Matt, Luke was sitting there looking very subdued, very resigned, is what I'd call it. But at the end of all that, he was still trying to defend Morag by saying that she's brought him out of his shell, yada yada yada. I'm not too sure he believed it, to be honest. But he was there to protect his wife. That's really what he was doing. So if we talk about Morag and Luke, I really can't see it working. Mr. Luke is still trying to make it work. Still wants it to work. Doesn't want the night to end, he says. He doesn't want the whole experiment to end. Because I think he's afraid she's going to walk away. That's what I feel. So If the two were to say yes, I'm sorry, but I can't see it lasting. If I had to give a time frame on these two, outside the experiment, probably give them maybe 6 weeks. Not even that. Not even that. I'm going to halve it. Make it 3 weeks. I can't see it lasting. When it comes to Matt and Dan, I can see them working, but like I said, it's the distance thing for me, and it's the baby issue, as we all know. I think Dan's a little too selfish. He's not really looking to compromise in any way, even though he says he will. I can't see it. Northern Ireland, Northern Ireland, Northern Ireland. That's all he's concerned about. My prediction for those two will be... they will definitely carry on outside the experiment. I don't doubt that. But as a whole, I'm going to probably give them a year. Yeah, I'm going to give them about a year. I really can't see it long term. They're going to try to make it work, but I can't see it working. Yeah, that's my prediction. So a year for them. Moving on to Frankie and Marie. Still the distance thing, him coming from Dubai to come and live in England. She feels it's a lot of pressure for him to move just for her. And I think that's going to be a slight obstacle. And then the baby thing. I know there's a question asked about the baby, about whether she wants to have a baby with Frankie. And she turned around and said no. And her reason for saying no was because she hasn't known him long enough to say that. So that makes sense to me, but I think he took offence by that a little bit. Yeah, his face said a lot with that question. But she was straight to the point. And again, with Marilise tonight, this is the first time I've seen her speak so much in the past, probably 2 or 3 episodes. And her being very vocal tonight, I liked it. Keep going, Marilise. Keep talking. Let him know where you stand. Now, if I had to predict for these two, I'm going to say, if those two were to come together, I just can't see long term. I really can't. I think they'll try. I'm going to give them 6 months. I'm going to give them 6 months. Yeah. Moving on to Adam and Taya. Those two, I feel, will last. Yep. I'm going to give them 10 years plus. I feel those two will last, definitely. I've got nothing more to say on them two. They're so gushy, loved up, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. So that's the end of them. 10 years plus. Lastly, Amy and Josh. Oh, what a night for Amy and Josh. There's a question that Amy had to ask Josh. Do you love me? Something like that. Do you love me? Josh's facial expression gives everything away. First thing he will do is lick his lips. Every single time. When he's been put in a position where he doesn't know what to say, he'll have his mouth gape open, lick his lips, starts looking around the room, which is what he did in this occasion. He started talking to everybody around the table, going round the houses about the word love and not really answering the question. Eventually, he did answer the question. Again, he said, love is just round the corner. I could see myself falling in love, just like he said the day before. Just like he said the day before. Again, waste of time. He's going to tell you what you want to hear. Amy's reaction to that was like, oh, he loves me. He loves me. She told the whole table. She told the whole table. That's what she did. This girl is in cloud cuckoo land. Let me tell you. I don't care whether they renew their vows tomorrow. I don't care. That isn't going to last. Straight up. Not going to last. I'll give them 2 weeks. If that. If that. They're the least compatible couple out of the whole group. There was actually a question read out tonight from the honesty box about the same thing. The question was, rank the couples from best to worst. Yeah, rank the couples from best to worst. And you guessed it. Amy and Josh came last. As I said, they're not compatible. No. And in order, from best to worst, it was Adam and Taya. Secondly, Matt and Dan. Thirdly, Frankie and Marie. Fourth was Morag and Luke. And as I said, last of all, Amy and Josh. And that's exactly the order I would have put it in as well. There was also another question that sort of split the table. And it was, rank the couples in order of how long you think they would last. And there was a list of timescales. The first one was forever. The second one was 2 decades. The third one was 2 years. Fourthly, 2 weeks. Fifth one was 2 days. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was it. And that result was exactly like the previous results for the best match. So in the same order, Adam and Taya for forever, Matt and Dan for 2 decades, Frankie and Marie for 2 years, Morag and Luke for 2 weeks, and of course Amy and Josh 2 days. Taya read out the question, and she's the one that had to give the answers, by the way, in order. She didn't even get to finish. Amy was already fuming by the time Morag and Luke's was already read out. She was fuming. Yes, she was. Oh, all night, everything was just so negative where their relationship was concerned. Let alone Morag and Luke. But especially her, she took everything very personally. As we all know, she's rolling her eyes, the whole 9 yards, drinking her hand, ready to cuss off anybody, talking about her anxiety's high, don't anybody F her off. Yeah, it was very much like that. She was in that type of mood. Yeah. Everything's against them. Oh, dear. Amy. Oh, I don't know. Well, I do know. She just doesn't know. That's what it is. She just doesn't know. You're not compatible. You're not going to last. You should have left weeks ago. Most of the honesty box questions were based on what they had already talked about previously on their final dates between each couple. But this time round, it was actually put in front of the group. They had to answer those questions, which is why I haven't sort of gone into details with that. Yeah, we've heard it all before. So that was the end of the evening. Not much else to say. So I'm going to leave it here. If you like what you've heard, please like, comment and subscribe. Till next time.